Egypt, 2800 BC. One priest wrote a single sentence so dangerous, the Vatican would spend 3,000 years trying to erase it. That sentence predicted the exact date Rome would fall, and it came true. But the Church made sure you'd never hear about it, until now. Moses stood before Pharaoh. He threw down his staff, and it became a serpent. A miracle, proof of God's power. But then Pharaoh's magicians stepped forward, and they did the same thing, the Bible says. Their staffs became serpents too, by their secret arts. The Vatican knows what this means. They have the proof locked in their vault, the ancient texts, the formulas, the forbidden magic of Egypt, and they've spent 2,000 years making sure you never see them. Let me show you why. Imagine Egypt, 3,000 years before Christ. The priests of Amun-Ra walk through temple halls, their robes dragging across stone floors worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. They carry something in their hands, papyrus scrolls, covered in hieroglyphs. Not prayers, not poems, instructions. Formulas for bending reality, for speaking to the dead, for commanding forces the Church would later call demonic. So what could Egyptian magic do? What did those priests know that the Vatican tried to bury? The Egyptians believed in Ma'at, the cosmic order. They believed that words had power, that speaking the right formula in the right way could command reality itself. The Book of the Dead isn't just mythology. It's a manual, instructions for navigating the afterlife, spells for protection, passwords to speak to gods. The pyramid texts, carved into stone walls 3,000 years before Rome existed, describe priests who could walk between worlds, who could speak to the dead, resurrect bodies, control the weather. And the Vatican has these texts in their archives, locked away, never displayed. Because if people knew what was written there, they'd ask questions the Church can't answer. Moses turned water into blood, the Nile River crimson, and Pharaoh's magicians did it again. Exodus 7, verse 22. But the Egyptian magicians did the same things by their secret arts. This is what terrifies the Vatican. It means magic existed before God gave Moses the law. It means there was real power outside of divine authority. And if that's true, then the Church's monopoly on miracles is a lie. 1643. Rome, Italy. A Jesuit scholar named Athanasius Kircher is studying Egyptian hieroglyphs. He's one of the first Europeans in over 1,000 years who can read them. And what he finds disturbs him. Egyptian magical papyri, Hermetic texts, books attributed to Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. They describe a system of magic that predates Moses, predates Abraham, predates the flood. Kircher writes to the Vatican, asking what to do with this knowledge. The response is clear. Translate what is necessary for historical record. Suppress the rest. when they did. The Vatican Library has hundreds of Egyptian papyri, many never catalogued, never studied, hidden in sections with restricted access. Why? Because they describe a power that works without Jesus, without prayer, without faith in the Christian God. Let me tell you what really terrified them. The Corpus Hermeticum, a collection of texts attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes the thrice great. According to legend, he was an Egyptian priest who discovered the secrets of the universe, who learned to control matter, to heal the sick, to extend life. These texts were hidden for centuries, then rediscovered during the Renaissance. And the Church panicked. Because the Hermetic texts suggested something dangerous. That man could attain divine knowledge not through faith, not through Jesus, but through understanding, through mastery of natural laws, through secret formulas passed down from ancient Egypt. The Vatican condemned them, called them heretical, banned their study. But they kept copies, locked in their vaults, because they knew it was true. 1822, Jean-François Champollion deciphers the Rosetta Stone. For the first time in over 1,000 years, scholars can read ancient Egyptian, and what they find confirms the Church's worst fears. The Egyptians had developed a system of magic so sophisticated it rivaled anything in Christianity. They could mummify bodies to preserve them for eternity. They built structures that still stand 4,000 years later. They mapped the stars with precision that wouldn't be matched until the 20th century. And they did it all without the God of Abraham. The Vatican had a choice. Acknowledge that ancient Egypt had real power, real knowledge, real magic, or suppress it. They chose suppression. Scholars who studied Egyptian magic too closely found access restricted, their papers questioned, their research discouraged. Texts that suggested the Egyptians could do things the Church called impossible disappeared into archives. Expeditions to uncover more were quietly discouraged. Because if the world knew what Egyptian priests could do, they'd ask uncomfortable questions. Like, why does the Church claim a monopoly on miracles? Why are their sacraments the only path to God? Why is their interpretation of the Bible the only truth? Egyptian magic proved there were other ways. The Vatican still has them. The papyri, the scrolls, the forbidden texts. Deep in their archives, among the Egyptian manuscripts, most have never been photographed, never transcribed, never studied by anyone outside the Church. A few scholars have asked for access, their requests denied. Too fragile, under restoration, not available for research. The same excuses for decades. So why does the Vatican fear Egyptian magic? Not because it was fake, but because it was real. Because it proved that humanity had power before God gave Moses the law. Because it showed that miracles could come from knowledge, not just faith. because it threatened the foundation of everything the Church built. The idea that salvation comes only through Jesus, that miracles come only through God, that the Church is the only path to truth. All of it challenged by ancient stones covered in hieroglyphs. The papyri remain in the dark, in the vaults. The formulas, the spells, the forbidden knowledge of priests who walked the earth 3,000 years before Christ. Locked away, not because they're false, but because they're true. And perhaps that's exactly where they want them to stay. Not to protect us from dangerous knowledge, but to protect their authority from uncomfortable truths. The Egyptian priests knew something powerful, something real. And the Vatican still fears it. Rest.